Hi, everyone. Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Kacy, your Head to Heart coach, helping you live a more aligned, more authentic life that's true to you. Because here's the thing, the world has programmed us in a way where we have been living life on other people's terms. We've been living life for other people, doing the things that they want us to do, whether we know it or not. And it's like when you wake up to the truth that this is your reality, that this is your existence, you are here to live a life that's authentic to you, then things shift. The world changes, and all of a sudden, you're in this new paradigm. And so, having been someone who has walked that path, and is constantly on that path, it is my mission to serve you on this journey. So, in today's conversation, we're going to talk about 2024, specifically about what can we do today, right here, right now, to actually move into 2024 in the most highest vibration, in the most highest alignment. So there's a couple things that I'm going to go through. I have a list of things to share with you, but also know that a lot of the content that I share is not just coming from here, it's coming from you. It's coming from your collective energy of like what it is that you need to know. Because there's a lot of things that I honestly don't come to the table with right off the bat. Sorry, I'm still trying to kind of figure out these live YouTube settings, but here we go. We're back. Yeah, so I don't come to the table with like a lot. There's kind of like a couple things that come to me during meditations and I just tune in, but know that this content here, the energy and the information you're receiving is timeless. Time ultimately is an illusion. It is something that is a construct that has been created to keep us confined inside this container that helps us feel like we're moving forward or makes us feel like shit when we feel like we're not moving fast enough, right? So time in and of itself is an illusion. So even this conversation around 2024, around the month, around this week, around this energy, it's ultimately all part of this grander illusion. But when we can speak to it, speak within it, and have a conversation about it, and then ultimately move out of that frequency and create life on our own terms, it becomes a lot more powerful, a lot more authentic, if you catch my drift. So, okay. So let's dive into it. So, in order to create what is next, right? So what is the next phase? Whether it's a new project, a new month, a new year, and in this video specifically 2024 being the next year. In order to create that powerfully and intentionally, we need to be able to look at what we have created before and to be grateful for that energy that has come before us, that we have already manifested, that we've been living in. So often, what I have done myself and what I've seen so many people try to do is like run away from the present and then try to create this beautiful future or this beautiful world somewhere else, but in actuality, they're just taking that energy and pushing it over there. So it's the same thing. If you enter 2024 with this intention that you want to change, you want to do things differently, but you're still bringing that same you to that new energy, to that new container, right? You're moving from container A to container B, and all you're taking is taking your shit with you over here to the second space. Well, there you are. I discovered this very early on while traveling solo. And here's the thing about solo travel, it's like you can't hide. You can't hide from you, you can't hide from anyone. It's just like, holy crap, it's a whole other dimension of getting to know yourself. So if you haven't done solo travel, highly, highly recommend it. But what I learned was that I could escape my current life. I could leave the country I was in, I could leave the hostel, I could leave the city that I was traveling in, but ultimately, I always ended up with me. I was always there. And so that's the same thing that I want you to think about as we move and transition through whether it's a year, a month, the next phase, that you cannot create something new by simply just moving into the new container. It needs to be a conscious effort to recognize who you were, who you desire to be and what you are releasing and leaving in this old container so that the you that comes out is essentially stripped of all the crap that you no longer want, right? So the you that comes out, and then you pluck yourself and put yourself into that next container. It's kind of the same thing about if you think about relationships, especially toxic, unhealthy relationships. Maybe you've experienced this, or maybe you know people in your life that you're kind of witnessing that do this, where they move from relationship to relationship, but they, aren't healthy. The relationships aren't good. They end a bad one. And without giving themselves the space to actually heal and be grateful and release, and that doesn't mean months or years. It could literally be a week of clearing and cleansing, and then boom, your frequency is up leveled, so you attract the next level of your partner. So it's the same thing, right? Unless you can be grateful and look in essence at what you have created, even if it was not the best, even if you didn't like it, you can't hate it and then try to move to a new level while still hating it and then try to create from that hate or that disruption. I had a client recently who was very, very exhausted at her job, burnt out, overwhelmed, exhausted. And I mean, this reflects like a lot of the clients that I work with, a lot of the women that are born and brought up in this hustle culture and this ambition. And it's not a bad thing, having drive and determination, but it's if you let that masculine energy lead the way and burn you out, as opposed to utilizing that energy as a form of creation and substance to build something off of. So I had this client who was really in a challenging work environment. And we had a call a couple months ago where she was literally like, screw it, like I'm quitting. I don't care. I hate this. And we allowed her to just speak it out. And I'm like, okay, awesome. So when are you leaving? When is your notice date? We kind of planned all that out. The next week she shows up and she's like, Kacy, I had this realization that I can't quit. I actually can't leave, because if I leave, I am perpetuating the same cycle that I've always been perpetuating. And I was like immediately so impressed, because I'm like, wow, this is exactly the stuff that we've been talking about. And the fact that you are tuning into it on your own and it's in your essence and your energy, that is profound. So, what ended up happening is that rather than try to leave this toxic job and jump into a new one right away, she recognized it didn't align with her. But what she said is, she's like, I created this. I created this mess. I overgave. I let, myself feel like I was more worthy if I answered my calls and my emails after work hours, if I put my job above everything else. Like I was essentially just making my job my life, and she's like, "That's a pattern I've done my entire life." It wasn't just like a one-time thing. So she realized, if I keep doing this and perpetuating this, I'm gonna take this into the next energy, to the next job, and I can't do that. I gotta learn this when it's on a small scale. And she has big dreams, right? She wants to create a business, she wants to create a whole new life for her and her family and live life on her own terms, but she needs to learn this lesson right now. And so what she ended up doing was she stayed. And she just stayed and she sat. She felt it without fixing it, right? She felt it. She was in the energy. She said to herself, okay, I'm going to be here and I'm going to learn. Even though this is really challenging, I created this. So, what do I need to learn so I don't repeat this pattern again and again and again? So, she literally stayed. And within, I kid you not, like under a month, she was having healthier boundaries, saying no, delegating, being in her feminine, leading with heart. And all of a sudden, right, seemingly out of the blue, she gets this new job opportunity that is at a whole other level, at a whole other frequency where it aligns with her. And this story is not just one, it's like one in hundreds and hundreds of stories that I have seen, women that I've worked with that shared these stories with me. And it's just incredible. So, all that to say, if you want to make 2024 a year that is memorable for you, a year where you actually build something of value and you step into your power and you allow yourself to really be led by the energy of the year and greatness, it's not just enough to start on January 1st and say, "Okay, great. I'm going to just be the best version of me and I'm going to do all this stuff and check it off and then stop after 30 days." This is the reason why so many people make New Year's resolutions. And I do not stand by New Year's resolutions. I stand by new year, new frequency, new year energies, new year intentions, not just simply things you got to check off. Okay. Might be contrary, but here's the thing, they don't work because it's a form of doing. It's an old paradigm, an old narrative of how the world operates. So if you're trying to still, and I'm going to keep literally repeating this, if you are trying to create your life at a high vibration, at a high frequency, and you're operating on old paradigms and old views of the world, you're going to come up with a really big clash. You're literally going to feel like I'm at this elevated vibration, but the things that I want to create are not aligning. They're not happening. Why? Because you're at this new frequency, right? You're holding this energy, but then you're applying the same old principles that you've done your entire life. So this is not going to work anymore, especially now that you have this knowledge. You're not ignorant, right? So here's what is going to work: being extremely grateful for who you've become over this last year. 2023 has been a year, just talking now about the energy of the year, a very powerful energy of spirituality and spiritual connection and learning things that you needed to learn. And for everyone, their spiritual awakening and their spiritual energy happens at a whole new level. And literally, as I was saying that just a couple seconds ago, it was 11:11 on the timestamp here. So it shows me that we're onto something really, really aligned. So it was a year of learning about how to deepen your spiritual connection. 7, 2 plus 2 plus 3, 2023 is the year 7. So for you, that could have looked like losing a job. Maybe it could look like being in a not so great job, losing a relationship, injuries, big year for injuries, something that caused you to stop your kind of hamster wheel energy and reassess some sort of external stimulus or external force that needed to disrupt your day to day in order for you to actually finally be like, okay, you know what? The spirit world is real, energy is real. I got to listen and I got to tune in. And maybe if it wasn't super intense for you, you were already kind of on the cusp of recognizing your sovereignty and understanding your energy. And you were like, okay, I'm just gonna allow. And you went with the flow and you learned a lot of stuff about yourself. But nonetheless, this year was about a spiritual awakening on some level. And with that spiritual awakening comes a lot of clarity, but also a lot of um, hardship. It's like once you see the thing, you can't not see it anymore. And then it leads to a lot of disruption. So, specifically, the year was focused on a lot of root chakra clearing and a lot of the higher realms clearing as well. So it's kind of like the root chakra was cleansing. So it could manifest like things like home, money, stability, safety, um, just recognizing like where your place in the world is. That's kind of the root chakra energy. At least that's what it means to me. And I know I had a lot of uprooting this year happening. I moved probably like 4 times. I moved from Costa Rica to Canada. I moved to a whole new country. I moved from house to house. And then also financially, there was a lot of clarity and all the challenges that maybe things that I was putting on the back burner and kind of hiding under rocks and pretending, oh, well, I don't have to deal with this, rose to the surface. And so that something along those lines could have happened to you around your root chakra. And then the higher realms, like your crown and your third eye, that's where more of your spiritual awakening, your truth lies. But that energy can't come in unless your root is stable or unless you are clearly healing and working on your root. And another example with root chakra is like, so my husband the other day was shoveling and he slips on ice and literally hits his tailbone or his coccyx and cleanses like this energy from his root chakra. And all of this pain, suffering, trauma around safety, money, all this stuff comes up to purge, right? And then after he does that, he ends up after a week or so having this deep spiritual insight about his next move. He ends up finding this Dr. Joe meditation where he goes deep in and it like expands his pineal gland. Like all of this next level stuff, but the higher energies cannot come through unless you are open and awakened to face the challenges that and issues that are coming up for you to see on this 3D earth plane. And so that kind of goes back to we can't move from container A to container B without actually like looking at what's happening in container A. So if we think about up leveling our spiritual game, right? There's so many people that I've seen, and it's no judgment, but it's like they're floating in the spiritual realm, but but on earth, maybe they don't have a home, they're poor, or they're just inconsistent with their day to day. They don't know how to ground and root. And again, no judgment. I have been there. I get it. But it's like we can't just be up there and be like, "Oh, I'm in the realm and I'm meditating." And that's great. But what about your money? What about your family? What about your job? What about your food? Right? What about the things that you're here on planet Earth to experience as a man or a woman, as a being? You are not just a spirit. You are a spirit having a human experience. So in order to have that human experience, you need to actually do the human things, right? And be here. And it's that connection between the higher consciousness and the root that allows you to open up, merge in your heart center, and then create this expanded view where you are a human being, a man and a powerful woman, walking as sovereign beings, knowing your spirit, knowing your power, and able to summon these eternal realms with great power, but also in your physical form. Boom. Mic drop for you right there. So that's essentially the blueprint, right? Like that's the essence. That is why we are here, to experience joy, to experience the human experience. And sometimes it's like joy, sometimes it's sadness, sometimes it's whatever shows up. But if you don't clear the foundational issues, everything else will crumble and everything else is inauthentic. Like think about if someone's building a business and they don't have a bank account. They don't have any sort of like structure in their business or in their organization. The business is going to crumble, but also there's no way where for the money to flow. The money can come in, maybe there's millions of dollars trying to pour in, but it just can't go into the bank account, right? So root level, what have you done this year that you are like, wow, I built that, I healed that, I cleared that karma so that you are ready to receive a lot more divine insight, more wisdom from these energies that are really wanting to add value and make a difference for you in your life. What have you cleared? What have you completed? What karmic cycles have you done? Because maybe you're watching this and thinking, I haven't, but I promise you have at some level. Think about it. Really sit with what work have I done to create a stronger, more grounded sense of self financially, whether it's in your home, in a relationship with your partner. Like, what is it? Maybe it was an injury that life had given you, and it literally sat you down in your butt and said, "Wait, hold, pause, because we got some clearing to do." So that could be it too, right? So a lot of the root chakra healing, and then the receiving of the energy from the crown, from the third eye. So this energy of the receiving is going to come through more in 2024 because like I said, you've done a lot of the spiritual, the physical foundations. You've cleared a lot of the stuff. And a lot of the spiritual awakening happens when something physical changes in our life. And then all of a sudden we're asked to open up to a new level, right? So that's been this year. So reflect and be grateful for what have you learned? What have you expanded on? What have you healed? What have you cleared? And also really recognize that, honor your small wins. If you think it's small, and you're judging that, check in on that. Why? And like really be your own cheerleader. Applause. I know this is something that's really been hard for me. And as I say this, it's like, Kacy, this is for you as well. More than anything, it's like, yeah, just like recognize the work that you've done and the healing that you have created, the space and the self love and the honoring that you've done for yourself and for others. And the intentions that you've set. Maybe like the things that you really want haven't manifested yet in the physical yet, but it was only because a lot of the clearing needed to be done. And in preparing for this conversation, I was thinking about the last couple of years, 2020 to 2021. And those years, it kind of feels like a lot of the stuff that we needed to do, the inner work, came up, but the root chakra foundational level things were kind of buried under the rug, so to speak, because it was, like, so busy that time on Earth. There was a lot going on, a lot to avoid, a lot to be with, a lot to resist, contemplate, agree with. Like, there's so much, like, stuff to externally stimulate us that is kinda like, "Whoa, what about my own issues?" "Well, it doesn't matter," and then you kinda brush it under the rug, but consciously or not. But this year, I felt like on the global level, it's been a lot more quieter, so to speak. It hasn't been as intense, and so because of that, you had to go inwards. And if you haven't wanted to go inwards, then some sort of external stimulation had you need to go inwards, a call to action, if you may. So, a lot of that healing. Now, what else? Yes. So, a lot of the root chakra healing also comes with um, being asked to stop giving your power away. What that means is like when you are your own sovereign being, when you're connected to your truth and rooted, and you know that and you've healed that part of you, you don't look to external people like bosses, authority figures, governments, all this stuff, whatever it is, whatever it may be, religions, right? You don't look at those things to free you or to remind you that you're sovereign. You connect to the fact that you are a free being. You are a human being. You are here to experience planet Earth. And there's all the duality that comes with Earth, comes with humanity essentially, but that you can't be governed and controlled by external forces, just like maybe over the past, decade or 20, 30 years, we have been. So this year has come to a pivotal almost like a stop sign of stop. If you are being controlled by external forces and you're giving your power away, it's time to wake up. It's time to shift. So you'll also notice a lot of the organizations that are out there that are telling you that it's only one way, or this is the only right way to do things, or this is only how, God exists, or whatever, like whatever it may be for you and what you're hearing, know that those are crumbling. Those viewpoints are not going to align with the future vibration of the world. It's just like it's old news. And giving up your power to people please, giving up your power to someone else is old news because you recognize your inherent worth. And when your root is healed and when you're connected to your root and your essence of your energy, you know your worth and you don't need to go giving away your sacred energy and your power to just anybody and everybody. You recognize the more intentional spaces of life and the more intentional connected relationships. So reflect on that too. Where have you really this year pulled in and reined in your energy to actually create what you want as opposed to what other people want you to do? Because that's super huge. And ultimately, overall, looking at the year and being like, wow, what am I so grateful for? Who have I become? And another exercise that I want to share with you is I want you to look back 1 year. So think about that for a moment. I'm going to drink some tea. I've been talking a lot. So look back a year. So in our case, 2022, and you can do this every year. So look back a year and think to yourself, what would you say to December 2022 version of you? Like, really think about who were you back then? What were you doing? Where were you living? Maybe who were you in a relationship with? Who were you not? Where were you working? Like, just kind of think of all those external things. And then I want you to think about how did you feel? So I think back and I was living in Costa Rica. I was drinking a lot and now I'm sober. It's kind of like I went there for a vacation-ish type with my husband, and then, after a couple weeks of vacationing and it turns into your daily life and you're drinking at, like, 12, kind of a challenge. So, I remember we were doing a lot of that. I was working for a pretty successful company as a coach, still building my coaching business, but more or less building someone else's dream. And this time, last year, I remember feeling extremely overwhelmed with the fact that my life didn't look really aligned with how I wanted it to, because I was drinking a lot. It just didn't feel very good. I wasn't really in my own energy. I was kind of dealing with a lot of internal trauma and trying to avoid and repress. And on top of that, I had just gotten fired from my job that I thought was really like giving me all the stature and status quo, and I kept telling myself in the back of my mind, I was like, "Oh, yeah, 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 I'm building my coaching business, and I'm gonna speak my truth, and I'm gonna do all that stuff, but let me just do this job right now that's coaching, so it's close to my purpose, and it pays the bills, and it pays the bills really great, it's like a really great six-figure job, so let me keep that." And then I got fired. And then I had a drinking problem. And then my marriage was basically like falling apart because we were hiding trauma and pain. And nonetheless, it was like I look back and I'm like, wow, I am so grateful, Casey, that you kept going. I'm so grateful that you made the choices you did to clean up your life. I'm so grateful that you took that challenge of being fired and laid off to shifting and building your most authentic, heart centered business. I am so grateful that you have stayed the path. I'm so grateful that you choose to show up for yourself every day. I'm so grateful that you don't give your power away anymore. I'm so grateful that you have really learned how to say a sacred no and to stop people pleasing. So so you understand the gist of that, right? Like so really recognize, maybe it wasn't the best circumstances as I shared, just to be completely vulnerable. I want to be honest and transparent with you guys. I'm not perfect by any means. I'm just someone who's walking on the journey and wants to serve others along the way, right? So just tune in to what are those things and how can you find gratitude for that energy? And what would you say to that version of you? Because she or he is the person that walked the path and showed up here. So now tuning into the energy of 2024, it's like, how can you now take the same kind of exercise and apply it to next year? So let me tell you about how to do that. An exercise you can play with is you can look forward and pretend that you're in 2024 and then look back. So it's like future pacing, but look back to you today and say, okay, wow, Casey of December 2023, I am so grateful that you are just so powerful. You believed in yourself. You kept doing video. You went viral, but at a really authentic level. You shared your message with the world. You served people, and one turned into 10, turned into hundreds, turned into thousands, turned into millions. And you really embrace that energy of believing in yourself and you surrendered to a deeper level than you have ever before. And you trusted the process, you trusted God, you trusted the universe, and you trusted this essence of truth. I'm so grateful, Casey, that you chose this and you did it and you're here. So you can feel that, right? Like there's this momentum, there's this energy. I'm not trying to create 2024 with well, I got to clean up my 2023 and I don't feel like good. So I need to take that energy and turn it into 2024 and hopefully it'll help me feel better because that is a pattern for disaster. So stop that pattern, okay? Listen to all of the things that we've said here and really really I invite you to tune in what resonated with you, what aligned, right? Like that we talked about the root chakra, we talked about the spiritual awakening of 2023, we also talked about stop giving your power away and reclaiming your sovereignty and acknowledging yourself for where you've done that. And then the gratitude. What are the gratitude for the lessons for this year? What are you grateful for? Who are you grateful for from last year, that version of you? And being grateful from 2024 for today. So it's a lot, right? Like a lot of energy work that we've done here. But this is extremely important. And this isn't so much like a sit down and spend 20 minutes and that's it. I want you to constantly be like evolving into this. So, yeah, for sure, sit down, do some journaling after this, and really like lean in and understand and recognize where you see yourself, what have you learned, but more so, understand that this is a way of being. I'm not here to give you like a structure, right? Like I'm not here to do the same things that these organizations have done, that here's your ABC structure and here's a structure. Once you implement it, your life will be perfect. I'm here to just convey an energy to you that when you start to learn and embody for yourself and you truthfully dive into you, you're going to find yourself at a whole new level. And 2028 is a year of wealth. It's a year of karma. It's a year of balance. So as you purge and cleanse this energy, a lot of energy is going to be given back to you. It's a cycle. It's a loop. So think of 8, right, as a loop. So with that said, that is our conversation for today. I thank you for taking the time to listen. If you're still with me at this point, you're amazing and you stuck around. So deeply grateful for you. If you like this, you want to know more and keep learning and keep hearing from me, please hit the subscribe button, share this video with others that you think could benefit. And also tell me in the comments what landed for you, what felt aligned, what questions do you have? Because the more that you can share with me, the more I'm able to serve you and give you the support and the clarity and the direction that you need. So with that, I'm going to leave you here, and maybe I'll do a live soon, maybe 2024. We'll see. We'll see how the energy moves. But nonetheless, I love you. I honor you. You are amazing. And just remember how beautiful and divine you are. Okay? Just remember that. No matter what challenge, what transition, you got this, and you're going to keep going because you're you and you're a divine being. Lots of love.